It's springtime and you're ready to launch your boat and go sailing, but you gotta do your winches. Now, you can either hire someone to do this, or you can really easily just go out and do it yourself. In today's episode, I'm gonna show you guys how to service your winches and how easy it is to service your winches. Servicing your winches is just the simple process of opening your winch up, greasing it, and putting it back together. That's it. It's just routine maintenance that you do at least once a year. If you sail a lot or your winches are starting to get, a little stiff, maybe do it a little more often than once a year, but at a minimum, once a year. And a good time to do it is the springtime, because that's when you're about to start using your boat. So it's been sitting all winter long. It's kind of gotten a little stiff. So by oiling it and lubricating it, everything's ready to go for the next sailing season. So if we look at this winch, it's been sitting here for a while and it's a little on the stiff side. So we're gonna open it up, clean it out, grease it up, and then put it back together. That's all it takes to service your winches. Now there's going to be 3 things that you're gonna need to service your winch. First thing you're gonna need are the tools for your winch. Depending on the winch brand you have, it's gonna need different tools. The second thing you're gonna need is a box with a hole in it. The third thing you're gonna need is winch grease. Now you can use Lumar winch grease, which is a dedicated grease for winches, or you can use something else that I'll show you guys later on in the video. The first thing you need to do is take your winch apart. Now that can be a little daunting because if anything falls off your winch, it's gonna fall overboard and you lose it. And then you have to pay a lot of money to get those parts replaced. Now a simple trick that can save your bacon when you're taking the winch apart is to use a box. And not just any box, but a box with a hole in the bottom. So all you need to do is slide the box over the winch, and then if anything falls out of the winch, it's gonna fall into the box and not fall overboard, and that's the important part. Now this especially pertains to Lumar winches, which have these little tiny pieces at the top of the shaft that just fall off and just bounce away. It's a very annoying part of their design, but they work really well, so I guess it's worth it. So if you're working with those kind of winches, or if you're just not familiar with your winch, put a box around it. Now these winches are by Barlow. They don't have any parts that just fall and bounce away, so I don't need a box. And personally, I rather do it without a box because then you can see what you're doing a little better. When I work on other people's boats, I always use a box, a blanket, a towel, just anything around it to just make sure nothing falls away, because if it does fall away, someone else's boat, it's just not somewhere I want to go. So if you're not sure, use a box. If you feel a little confident about your abilities, do without the box. So first step, you take the tools you need to open your winch. Now, depending on the company, you're gonna need different tools. Some, with these Barlows, all I need is a simple bronze spanner. Just fits into the holes, comes right off. Now, once you have the top cap off, you just lift the whole winch assembly up a bit. Sometimes they get a little seized with rust, and there we are. Now, the second thing you're gonna do is just take the tongue off. So all I did was take the drum and lift the drum until the top cap comes free, until the tongue comes free. And then I'm able to take it off. Now, the important thing is I did not take the bell off at the same time. So if you notice, each time I take off one piece. I don't want to take off more things and have more things in my hand, because then you have a chance of dropping things. So now that everything's cleared off, I simply lift up, and to lift, I just put my thumbs on the top of the shaft and push down. And that lifts the whole bell right up. Now, sometimes in the top, you'll see there's a bearing. Sometimes they stay on the winch itself, sometimes they come out in the bell. This is the one that came out in the bell, so I just pushed it out of the bell, and we just put it back on. So now the winch has all its parts, we're just gonna clean everything up. So first off, if I see surface rust like this going on, I just take a light lubricant and just spray it down, simply to help fight that rust. Okay, I showed you guys the box trick. Now I'm gonna show you the second trick. This is Lumar winch grease. This is the correct grease to use in a winch. So when you take the winch completely apart, you're gonna clean it out, and then you're gonna grease it up with this stuff. Now, the reason that you have to clean it out is because this stuff doesn't go anywhere, which means next year, This stuff has collected all the salt and dirt and grime and everything that's gotten inside the winch, and you have to take it out now. And if you don't take it out, what happens is everything just gets gunked up and then actually stops working. So on other people's boats, when I'm paid to do this, I use this stuff because this is the correct stuff to use. On my own boat, I don't use this stuff. I use Finish Line wet chain lube. So this is the same stuff I use on my mountain bike when I do cross-country racing and everything, and it works so well. It lubricates everything, it doesn't gum up, it doesn't gunk up, and it doesn't hold and trap a bunch of dirt with it. That means that when I open it to service the winch, it's clean. And all I have to do is apply more lubricant. It's that easy and that simple. So that's the second trick. Now on your own boat, you can choose, you can use the correct stuff that makes a big mess, or you can use chain lube. It's a very well engineered oil. Now it also comes as a dry lubricant. I always use the wet one on my winches simply because it holds on a little better. It's a little more resistant to wet environments. That's my personal preference. You can use whichever one you want to use, but I really recommend using a chain lube instead of a gear grease. Now if you look at the winch, there's a whole bunch of gears here. So when you turn the handle, what actually happens with the two speeds, either one gear goes or the top one goes, which rotates the bottom one. So that's your 2-speed system in the winch. When you look at the winch and you turn the winch handle, you'll notice that there's gears here that spin really quickly. Now I always find the one that spins really quickly on one of the turns, and that's the guy I'm going to start lubricating. So what I do is I feed lubricant into that guy, and then it'll carry the lubricant through all the other gears so that everything gets nicely coated. So we start here on this guy, and I just oil at the top of the gears, and then it just drips down onto everything. Now, I'm gonna go just under him at his base. It's just gonna carry the lubricant into there. And then there's some more winches, there's some more gears that are inside the body that I'm gonna get to now. And now the last gear we're gonna get is actually inside. So we're simply gonna pull up on the shaft, and then this whole piece comes out, and then I'm gonna put some on the spline itself. Okay, let me fit it all back together. So I pretty much just run it through, and then the lubricant gets run through all the gears everywhere. And with that, the inside of the winch is nicely serviced. Now the last thing we're gonna do is the inside of the bell. So if you look here, you see inside the bell, there's this ring gear. We're gonna put lubricant on that because that runs against the winch itself. So when you turn the winch handle, all those gears spin really fast to make one gear turn really slowly against this wheel. When that turns, it then turns the drum, which then spins the rope, which does all the work. So that's the whole mechanical advantage of everything. If you ever wondered what that 27 is on your winch, or whatever number winch you have, that number is equivalent to the force multiplier. So in other words, every one you put in, 27 come out, which means that if you put 1 pound of force in, 27 pounds of force comes out on the winch. So I'm just pouring some lube on that ring gear. We need to grease these bearings because they get dry, and then that makes it hard for the drum to turn on them. Next, we're gonna put the self-tailer on. So you just wanna orient the tongue so that it dumps into somewhere you want. So for example, if I orient it like this, it's gonna dump the line that way, which isn't very convenient. So I want it to dump into the cockpit. So I simply set it on at an angle and then lift until it falls into place. And then bring it back down. And then lastly, we're gonna put the top ring on. And then we tighten it. Now I like to tighten it pretty tight, but I still want the winch to spin freely in my hand. If you make it too tight, then it's just added resistance, and then everything just kind of slows itself up. So, and lastly, put the winch handle in, make sure it spins nice and easily, and if you put a load on it, make sure that it doesn't let you stop. It just keeps on turning. So that's all that's involved in servicing your winches. You simply take it apart, clean everything up, oil it up, put it back together. It's really simple. So the act of servicing all the winches on your boat is a pretty simple project. So it's a simple process that doesn't take much time to carry out, and it means that you can safely sail all season long. I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe, that way you don't miss any of these little tricks and tips that we talk about on our channel. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
And if you'd like to follow our journey in real time on a map, receive postcards from our ports of call, and message us directly to the boat, you can go ahead and become a patron using the link in the description down below.